Great. So I'm glad to be here tonight. These 2 weeks in between seem to go really, really fast. I was really inspired by Doreen's words as I was just joining, really about the willingness to awaken, to really push through things that might seem scary and things that may seem difficult in our awakening. That was perhaps the hardest thing for me to do, and I think that's one of the greatest assets that we have in this Awakening Together program, in the whole Awakening Together organization, that we have a fellowship of beings that are going to support us and that have such wonderful willingness, even if we don't know the way forward, just to be willing to progress and to push through boundaries, even if we don't know what those boundaries are right now. It's invaluable completely. It was something that was missing from my own awakening, having that fellowship. So I just want to say thank you to you all for being a part of this and being here with me tonight. And I just want to also say that it takes all of us to make this session work. It's all of our combined energy and willingness and devotion to truth, to awakening, that really makes a session like this come alive. And your intelligent questions and comments and sharing just really give everyone a springboard for deeper understanding of what truth is. I always think that the questions that people ask are so much more important, maybe even than the answers, because probably each one of us inside is doubting ourselves to some extent, that we can fully awaken, even if we are progressing and deepening. And so to hear even that other beings are having challenges or doubts or issues along the way, and also when we hear of other people's success and breaking through something that was seemingly holding them back, it's just completely inspirational. And that's one of the beautifully magical things about a session like this. So having said that, if anybody does want to share their progress or to ask a question, or if you're having any challenges at all in your awakening, I'd invite you to raise your hand and we can talk it through. Each one of us has our own unique challenges along the way, but some of those are universal to us all. We all have things that we feel we can't get through. We all have testing times. We all have exciting times as well. So I hope I can help you with some of those this evening or this afternoon where you are. So if anybody does want to ask something or share, then feel free to raise your hand. We'll see if there's a couple of questions, and then we'll go through, we'll perhaps finish with a meditation as usual. Lovely. So if anybody wants to ask. Or if there's anything you want me to talk about in particular, feel free to suggest. I'm not very good at thinking of topics for conversation, so. There we go. If there aren't any questions, if nobody feels that they have anything in particular, we can go into the meditation first. We'll see how it goes.
Helen, this is Doreen.
Oh, hi, Doreen.
I'm going to put my back on. I couldn't, for some reason, I couldn't find my raise hand thing.
Ah, okay, no worries.
Just kind of following up on the story I shared. I don't know how much you heard before about.
Not too much, so you might need to kind of fill it in a little.
Yeah. The story that led into me sharing about Ramana Maharshi was that, I was having conversation with friends, and we were talking about how to be in this political environment where there seems to be a divide, and how, I think I mentioned to them about compassion, having compassion for those who don't see things the way we see it, and how my friend just couldn't go there. And then me as a spiritual student pointing in that direction, and how radical it seems to say that I cannot experience harm, and how others that would probably like my friend, it would probably blow her mind to even hear me say this.
Yeah,
So, yeah. And so, and I find myself in those situations often, with close friends where I'm deepening in this spiritual understanding, and not a judgment against them at all, but the fact that I have been surrounded by many people who are not, I don't want to say there yet, because that almost seems like a judgment, but it's like there's this pull, like there's the willingness pull to know truth, but there's also a pull to stay where I am, to maintain the friendships, to maintain so I don't know, maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
I remember that actually. It's a good thing that you've brought that up. I remember feeling very torn at some points where it's kind of like you're far enough into this awakening to know you can't ever turn back, but there are those moments, and deep down, of course, we wouldn't really want to turn back, but I remember there are those moments where you kind of look at how you are, or perhaps you hear someone expressing a point of view, like you were saying, and it becomes clear that you really don't see yourself or the world the same way that they do now, and there might be quite a large gap in understanding, and it's okay to recognize that you have progressed. It is okay to do that inside yourself, to realize just how far you've come. But the downside of that is it can sometimes make you feel a little bit I don't know, isolated perhaps, or different to other beings.
Lonely.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to not say that word, but yeah, probably, certainly. For me, it was a challenge quite often that that feeling tends to kind of go away as you go deeper. That you feel eventually just as comfortable wherever you are. That kind of deepening. That there's more of an appreciation develops perhaps for the way the self is appearing as that being, and that the differences that we have in the way we see things are actually to be celebrated. That we can celebrate them. They don't have to cause conflict between us. And it's perhaps just to look at. It's fine for you to be who you are, isn't it? And it's fine for them to be who they are. But I also think it makes a group such as this even more valuable, because we can say certain things like nobody can harm me, and not have somebody look at you as if you're a little bit out to lunch.
Yeah, very grateful.
It's invaluable, the Sangha, the community. It really is. It's we're doing something in awakening, aren't we, that perhaps most of the world would think is irrelevant, even, not even that they wouldn't value it, but they wouldn't even perhaps understand why we would want to pursue something like this. And they might even value spiritual qualities like compassion as weakness or something, so it's good to kind of counterbalance that with like-minded spiritual beings, I think. It does pass after a while. Eventually, I mean, I'd still now prefer to be in a conversation like this than talking about the football or something, but I can do that and have a good time as well. It's not, there's no loneliness anymore, I think is the word you used. It does pass eventually. The kind of realizing, wow, I really see things a bit different to those beings now.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a good thing to bring up, actually, because it's very, very common. We all go through it, don't we? Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Ian?
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I was just going to ask about, I wasn't going to ask a question, but then you mentioned doubts in your little opening speech. And after having like a weekend where I was kind of had a few penny drop moments, I thought, oh, wow. And then my usual cycle of doubts kind of rotated around for a while. So I was just wondering, because it seems to be the doubts come after perhaps seeing something more clearly.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if you could kind of, is that the case? It's almost like it's something gets unsettled, so it goes into defensive mode. I'll throw all these doubts at you to see how you're getting on, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering if that was like a kind of common kind of experience. So
It's exactly how it is, isn't it? Like, if you have some breakthrough or some deeper seeing about truth, some aha moment, or something revealed to you, it's great, and it obviously you feel more expansive because of that immediately, don't you? But
yeah,
what happens next is some of the beliefs that we have been believing about ourselves or others or whatever becomes suddenly they're out of place in this new level of consciousness that we have. They were fine as they were, and then suddenly you have this seeing, and the temperature of the water is too hot for them then, or maybe better said, it's really too hot for them now. It was uncomfortable before, now they just don't match what you've seen to be true. Usually doubts about ourselves, our own awakening. And so there was a point in my journey where I stopped, it didn't come easily, but where I stopped kind of, you have this aha moment and it's, oh, that's great, I've just had this massive, woo, and then that's it, now I'm done now. It was almost, I kind of recognized that as soon as one of those moments happened, very quickly after, there's going to be this arising of something that doesn't agree with that.
Yeah.
And it has to, because it no longer is in line with what we've seen to be true, some deeper seeing or something. It's all in how we handle those moments, isn't it? This thing is it arising because I've lost what I've just had revealed, or is it arising because I've just had this revealed?
Yeah.
And it really helps to kind of keep reminding ourselves that until it's a habit, that something is going to come up, and it's a success when it comes up. My doubts, not that we're ever going to be happy that we're that those are coming up, but we can see it as a success, can't we? We can see it as a here's the evidence that this no longer fits in my being so well now. It's much more out of harmony with what I've seen to be true.
It was actually, I did actually, after about, because it's about, usually cycles around about half a dozen of certain doubts I have. And when the third or fourth one came up, I actually did manage to smile to myself. I was thinking, oh, I must have poked the bear with this one, so it was quite interesting.
And if you can kind of train yourself into looking at that as a positive thing, not it doesn't have to be enjoyable, we're never going to like it, but we can say, okay, this is evidence of this deepening. It's going to bring stuff up to let go of now. And we lose that opportunity if we go into resistance against it. Why is this coming up again? I thought I dealt with this, it's coming up because it no longer fits inside us anymore. It wants its own peace, it wants its own harmony, it wants to be seen and seen through and resolved. Yeah. So next time you have a breakthrough, you be okay, let's see what happens now.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, isn't it? It's like breathing in and breathing out are two sides of the coin. I'm always seeing deeper what I am, and I'm always seeing clearer when I'm not.
Yeah, I can really see the pattern really clearly now. Yeah, when it comes up. Yeah.
And hopefully each time it comes up, you should be able to see it clearer, that it's just not true. It was never true. It feels less and less real for you when it comes up each time.
Lovely. Thanks, Helen. Thank you.
Good sharing. Thank you. Okay, Rhoda.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
I have noticed that this particular ego battle continues to come up for me, and it is something that in my previous life was coined analysis paralysis. And that is, a decision shows up, there's something to be done or not done, or at least someone thinks there's something to be done or not done. And then the internal war begins. You know, the internal, like, there feels like there's 17 people in there having an argument about this one thing. And the more complex and large the decision seems, the worse it gets in there. And as I watch it, I know without a doubt that this is a pattern that this ego has used to muddle through decision making. And I want to be able to rest in this kind of chaos and wait for guidance. Yet, I don't even know how it ever gets quiet enough again to hear guidance. I'm overwhelmed. That's the truth. This particular pattern has it's got me bogged. And as a result, the paralysis is that not just that nothing gets done, it's that there's a belief that no matter what gets done or that no matter what happens, it's not right.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever comes out of that jumble is going to be the wrong action or something, that kind of feeling.
Yes.
It's really common.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, any guidance you have for how to hold on, to wait for guidance in that chaos would be really useful.
First thing I'd say is if you can kind of spend some time in between those moments, not when it's actually happening. It's good sometimes to, or if you can while it's happening, but you know, sometimes it's just not possible. There's just so much noise going on inside. 17 different opinions, as you said. You can kind of look back at when it happened last time, if you can remember, if you can think back to 2 or 3 different times and kind of really look at what came out of that. So in any decision-making process, we're either going to make the right decision or we're going to have a learning experience, you know, so either one of those really is the right decision, you know, so, and it doesn't feel like that at the time, but the power of the real self is such that it can motivate the body to do certain actions, even with 17 opinions going on inside. And if you can kind of rewind and maybe look, you know, use that analysis in a positive way. What was the outcome of the last time you had to make a big decision? And did you feel that something good came out of it in the end? You know, as you look back at these kind of, let's call them moments, you know, or long moments sometimes, you might be able to see that actually it was all right. Eventually something did come through, even with all that noise. It may not ever be recognizable here, but something was still working, you know, truth was still able to work through the body mind, even when there was all this kind of internal chaos over it. The sense of overwhelmment is because Well, it might be a couple of reasons, but if you kind of check it out, what's causing that, it might be a sense that there's too much noise to know what you need to do. Too big a task, it feels like, to make that decision. Okay. I can't fight my way through the noise to hear the right thing to do, that the guidance is not going to get through that noise. But actually, it kind of goes underneath the noise. If you can kind of just, it sounds like a strange thing to say, but it's not going to come in here. It's just going to, the guidance might just be that you find your body getting up or moving or making a phone call or going out for a walk, you know, just some action happening to move the situation forward. And that's the kind of guidance too, even if it doesn't feel like an aha moment or a clear right, this is what I'm going to do, you know. So all this is a very long way around of saying that whatever needs to get done will still get done. Yeah, if you can relax a little bit in the overwhelmment will go if you don't feel it's on you to make a decision in that moment. Okay, you are the space in which a decision is going to happen, you know. And for me, that really helped to think of it that way. It's not something I even have to do, and it will break through even this noise. It will just come and appear. I might have 17 different opinions, but all of a sudden I'll find myself actually doing something at the right time. It's this sense that we get caught up in, that I have to listen for the right decision, and if I miss it, I miss it. You know, and then we're going to feel overwhelmed because there's just too much noise to hear it. But the right decision, you really can't miss it. You know, I told this story before, but I used to just play with this. If I have a decision to make, 2 or 3 options, I'd just decide not to decide. Like, I'm just not going to choose. And then right at the last minute, my body would get up and start doing something. It just made a decision somehow anyway on its own. And as I began to trust this, that decision point happened sooner and sooner. So when I felt I had to choose something, I just kind of trained myself into relaxing. What wants to happen here? What's the best thing to do here? I don't know what that is. Let's just see. And it kind of just, it's really not true that we have to decide. Like that thought, right, this is what I'm going to do, that just spontaneously pops into your brain. And then ego says, I decided. When really it's just the thought that popped into you, but this is what I'm going to do, right? It wasn't there a moment before, and then it suddenly is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been like that. When I looked back, it's like, wow, it's every time I thought I was doing this, and it ran all this kind of turmoil inside that I've got to get it right. And it's really not like that, actually. You know, we really slow down what happens in that moment. At some point, some thought just pops in your head, this is what I'm going to do. You know, and it happens, right? It just, you end up doing it. Does that give you something
Amazing.
to? If you look
Yeah,
back, if you
excellent.
rewind, you'll see that that's what's happened each time. Something
Every
broke through,
time.
and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this
Every
one
time.
idea that I've got to clear the noise away so I can hear that thought. You know, I can hear that, but you really can't miss it if you just kind of, if there's noise, there's noise. You know, it's, if you and I were standing across a room and there were like 10 people in between us talking, if and I said something to you, if you really wanted to hear me, you would, you know. And it's just like that, isn't it? But we've got this crazy idea that we need to clear the room out before, and it's not so, and it'll help with the overwhelmment in that moment. Yeah, it's quite fun actually. Just go, you know what, I'm just going to see what happens here. Can't really get this wrong.
Yeah, I think I really appreciate the decide not to decide, because that is the way it's always happened in the past. It can be easy to forget sometimes.
A decision happens,
Mm-hmm.
but is it anything we've done or chosen? You know, that's the difference, isn't it? And a clear decision happens then from that place. you tend to make the right decision rather than have the learning experience from there. Not that those aren't valuable too, but we've kind of had enough of those already, you know.
Very true. Thank
Love
you very
that.
much, Ellen.
Very good. You're welcome. Emmy,
Hey,
how you doing?
I am doing good.
Good, good.
Okay, so where like I thought I was alone. First of all, I thought I'm the only one who's going through all these ups and downs. It kind of makes me feel a little better knowing that everyone is doing the same thing.
There's a
But,
lot of turbulence at the moment for a lot of beings. There's a lot coming up right now for a lot of beings. So,
oh, it
you
feels
know.
like everything is coming up.
Yeah.
But I guess we're gonna have to go through the. Um, so here's where I kind of get lost, Helen. When you say that, the self appears in everything, right? It's or everything is appearing, but the self appears as the fear, as this negative emotion. I get a little bit lost there, even though the other day I think I had like I was trying to say, like, what is Helen trying to say with this? How can I be something that I do not want to be?
Yeah.
Like, how can I be this negative feeling or negative thought that I've been trying to transcend for years? And like, how can I be that? And then I noticed in my looking, yeah, it is, because I am right here and the thought is right there. So it kind of appears simultaneously. And of course, the thought and the feeling kind of dissipates pretty quickly. But like, can you just clarify a little bit more about that? How can I see that what I am, which is pure joy and happiness? I I hope you can understand my question, because I cannot even find like like words to even like ask the right. I don't know if you can get it or not. It's just like, to me, it's just like, how can I be it? How can I just hate this pain? I hate this like things that comes up my chest, and you know that, so I don't need to explain. But you like,
Everything that's
how can you love
arising.
the ego too? Like, because the other day I saw it was such a clear seeing. Okay, you see that you're not ego, but now you have to love her. And how can you love her when I hated her so much?
You only you only hated ego because it felt so limiting, it felt so restrictive, it felt so painful when it was when I think I am that separate being, I experience all kind of lack, limitation, pain, suffering, not enough peace, not enough joy, not enough safety, all of that, right? And then we then transcend that. We see that that's not me, and we have this more expansive perspective of ourselves. We recognize that we are something quite different to that. But then the last kind of step is to see to stop separating ourselves from that egoic perspective as well. That is it only was painful because I thought that was all I was. So any thought, any feeling, any emotion can arise inside. And if you're not going into division or separation around it, if you're not thinking that it can do something to you, then you're going to feel, you're going to experience that emotion from the place of the real self rather than as a separate being. So kind of that last step then is to kind of allow all these egoic energies to come back up, as I know you have been doing, but to embrace them in a different way. As a separate being, I may feel that, I'm scared when fear comes up. As the self, I'll know that there's fear in the body right now, but it isn't affecting me I can't be affected by something like that. So that is the re-embracing of these egoic energies, to feel them, to experience them, and to recognize that I can let them be, which is a form of love, but I don't have to identify with them either. Before, as the separate self, we only have the option of identifying with that or pushing it away. That at first we feel this is me, I'm scared, in this example of fear. And then we realize that that's not me, and we push the fear away. I don't want that anymore. We kind of holding it at arm's length. And then as the self, we have to kind of practice this third option, which is to let it be there, but not reject it, but also not identify as it either. To say there's just fear. And that's the kind of how we bring the egoic sense of self back into the wholeness of your being, without getting caught up in it again, allowing these energies to dissolve. It feels like the last thing I want to do is go back there. I've done all this work to kind of pull myself away from it, right? And but when you actually start to really do that, from where you can't get, awareness cannot identify with anything. It can't. It just simply can't. So as the awareness, how does the awareness treat this fear or whatever it is? How would it be with it? It would just completely allow it to be, wouldn't it? The only other options we've had before is to say, I'm scared, it's affecting me, I'm the one that's scared, or to push against it. So it's kind of practicing just being with it, literally just being with it.
Okay, because like a lot of times I feel like I'm literally between the two. It's just like I see it, then going back to it going, and I see it, then go back to it going. It's just like oh, is it maybe because I'm thinking like you said the other day, it's just like he shouldn't be here, you know. And then when I saw like, well, he has all the right to be here, you know. Well, like when you look at deeper, I'm like,
And
what's
as
the
you allow
problem?
it to exist, being the self, it's allowed to exist completely, and it begins to change its frequency then. When you're not even, the thing that we do as spiritual seekers, right? I'll let you exist so that you go away. I'll let you be here. I'll let you come up so that you leave this fear. But as we just let it be, then it begins to change its frequency. It begins to enlighten itself. It wants to come back to peace. So it begins to be a fun thing in the end, that actually the last thing I thought I wanted to do was embrace this stuff, but it begins to get, its frequency changes as you don't resist it. It's the self, the silence, the awareness. It cannot resist anything. It also can't grab onto anything either. It's just like the space in the room, isn't it? In that respect, it can't do anything with these energies. It's not trying to avoid them at all. It's kind of how we have to take that stance to really let these things dissolve.
I feel like as much as I try to avoid that, and you know that,
Yeah.
as much as I'm trying to avoid it, I see that that's the only way. It's
Yeah.
just the only way. And the other day I had such a clear seeing after actually I reached out to the group, because I was just like, okay, what? It's something simple. It's something, but why am I not getting it? And it feels like that's absolutely the only way. The only way of reconditioning on it. It feels like it's just the ego was created. I wouldn't say by mistake, but not knowing. I said if I knew what I know now, would I've created this kind of like cycle? No,
And
right?
of course we wouldn't have, but that doesn't mean that we can get away without cleaning up the mess it made in a way, right? We have to kind of clean house by re-embracing it, the stuff that's been generated. And we can only do that once we're really sure that this stuff isn't true. We can only deeply embrace it when I know it's not true. When
Yeah,
I
I know
feel
for sure.
completely worthy, I can then embrace this unworthiness that was generated from that place of feeling separate to everything.
I guess like my question is like, especially because for me it's like when that strong emotional charge comes, like that strong like when the ego was identifying with whatever its thoughts and feelings, and that charge, I feel like in many times it's like it's lessened by far, but it's still like sometimes kind of grabs me and pulls me. Of course, immediately I start contemplating on it, and like, so they can continuously, like earlier, like I got scared again from a thought, and then I was like, am I really scared? Am I really scared of this thought? And as I was asking these questions, as I'm saying this question, like, of course, it absolutely disappeared so fast. I couldn't even believe how fast it went. But it's all in the chest, and it's just like it feels always there. So how can you, like, when that, like, do you immediately go into contemplation so you won't get like sucked into the?
Yeah, if you can in that moment, then you can ask the question, is this really true? But I would also suggest looking at why you're doing the contemplation. Ego will ask a contemplative question to try to get rid of something, right? To get to the end of it, to get it done. And that's fine, but we're never actually going to get to the end of it that way, because it's trying to work through a process that's never ending from ego. The self would ask, kind of, is this really true? Out of a sort of an open, loving curiosity. Same question, but a different motivation, just a wanting to see, whatever the outcome of that question, I really just want to see. And from that kind of attitude, even just to ask, why am I contemplating even, it can bring out this kind of motive of ego that, well, when I ask this question, this thing will go. And that's not really the truest love that we can give this fear or whatever, is it? Really, it's got just as much right to exist as anything else. And when we kind of get to that place, it will begin to evaporate. When it finally doesn't matter if it goes or not, it will go, because you're enjoying being in this open place of the questioning. Again, it's probably just a little bit more curiosity needed. I would, suggest having a look at that.
And so I still, like, it feels like a deep, it is still like wanted to get rid of it completely.
Yeah.
And that's just not happening, because obviously I'm not
So
really embracing it with
that's
love, but
a good place to investigate. Why do I want this to go? Maybe just sit and journal about it, or why do I need this to go? It's quite a revealing question. That in itself will reveal quite a lot. Why do I need this fear or whatever it is to disappear? The obvious answer to that is because I'll feel better, but there's some other motivations. But is it ever possible to feel better if I'm pushing against something? Can that ever actually happen? Or can I feel better right now if I just stop pushing against this thing? Is it really true it has to disappear before I feel better? Somewhere to look at in your questioning, huh?
Yeah. Okay.
It's possible to feel
listening.
Good. Just one final thing. It's possible to feel how you want to feel right now without anything changing in the body or mind.
Okay.
Have a play with that one for a while.
Okay.
Lovely.
I'm
Good to see you.
gonna keep listening. I'm just gonna keep listening, and like hopefully just someone like gonna like that resistance is just gonna collapse, because obviously 20 years of resisting, nothing has happened. So it might just turn.
Ask that question, where do I really need this to go? That's quite revealing in itself. Why am I trying to get rid of this? And it'll show these motivations underneath. Just to see them, they'll begin to disappear. Yeah.
Okay. All right, darling. Thank you
You
so
take care.
I sure do. I sure will. Goodbye.
Lots of love. Okay, Bo.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
My question was kind of echoing Ian's question in a way. So on Monday, I was in class and I kind of leaned back and closed my eyes after trying to embrace the fact that my teacher was being condescending to the class, and that was irritating me. So I sat back and closed my eyes, and out of nowhere, I didn't do anything. It seemed like there was some sort of hole that got ripped, and when I closed my eyes, I just felt like I was exponentially expanding.
Mhm.
And then I opened my eyes, and outside of the atmosphere feeling a bit like, what was that? Everything was normal. Closed my eyes again. Same thing happened. And instead of like the wow, like this is interesting, there was very much a I'm trying to be in class right now. I don't I don't really I wasn't expecting this. So there's like there was a little bit of anxiety coupled with it. I bring it up because after that occurrence, whatever that was on Monday, I tried to see where that came from, tried to explore, and I kept on getting hit with this doubt of like, you maybe the Numenon isn't always accessible because you can't find it. Maybe you don't know how to access the Numenon. Maybe, that was like weird. Ego says that's definitely like a notable thing, but you can never go back there because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so now I'm in this place of like today's meditations were nice. They're kind of how it normally is, but now that there's a trying to get back to a point because I don't understand it, and seeing that that's clearly different than my usual experience in meditation, or the usual experience of closing my eyes for that matter. Yeah, so there's this feeling of stuckness.
It's why did that moment happen in a classroom? Probably because you had no expectations of anything happening in that moment, so spiritually speaking, at least, but it's probably the last place you'd expect to have this big moment, so when then you asked later inside to experience that again, what has to happen immediately then is for anything that's in the way of that to appear, to become obvious. So you had this moment and then you want it back again, of course, we all do. And the very next thing that happens is this doubt comes up, like, see, you can't do it now. You're not as good at this as you thought you were, or something like that, it'll say inside. And it's easy if you just look at it on the surface to say, yeah, actually that's, look, I can't do it now. It's just I've somehow screwed it up or something. But what's actually happening is you're being shown the exact thing that's stopping you from experiencing it all the time. This thought that you feel inside somewhere it's possible for you to not be able to access that real part of you, the self, the noumenon. That is a possibility, that sometimes you might not be able to. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, that idea inside. And don't we all experience that when we meditate? Sometimes, oh, this is so nice, it's like, and then next time it's just this as Rhoda said, 17 opinions going on in your head. So if you can see, this is we all want to get back to that place, and we think that that's just going to happen. But to fulfill that, we have to see what's in the way of that. So if I think inside that it's possible that it might not happen for me, whether it be the Great Awakening, all of it, or just in this moment getting back into that deep place, then I'm going to literally experience that. And the thought and the experience are happening at the same time, not being able to get back there. So you've been given this gift that doesn't feel like a gift. Here's what you believe, one of those gifts you want to return, get your money back, right? Here's this thought that's in the way of you tuning in all the time so that you can question it. Okay, well, is that so? Have I ever really been cut off from the real place? Or have I just been experiencing this particular thought that came up? And as you begin to question that, is it really so that I can be cut off from it? Then you begin to experience more and more that it's not possible to be unable to tune in. So you very literally got you ask to go back there, and immediately you got given the reason why you feel you can't. Can you see that? It's like an immediate, okay, here's what you need to look at before your wish can be fulfilled type of thing.
Yeah,
So,
no, that makes a lot of sense, especially because the past couple of weeks I've been sharing in the Sangha meetings that I've had little improvements or seeing sort of whatever here and there, but there's been this I don't know if I can actually, everybody else's, there's been this constant comparison.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense that this is coming up now.
It has to, right? If you want to live as that, then you have to examine these thoughts that are going to say, well, yes, but you can't do it when you're at work, or you can't do it in class, or you can't whatever, those you can get them most of the time, but every now and again. And I had to look at all of this inside myself, because you're not a separate being. You are the noumenon already. So any thought that you play with, you're going to immediately experience. If I think it's possible, if I think I am never going to be able to wake up, guess what I keep experiencing? And I did that for 25 years, and it got a bit old, and then it kind of shifted to, well, sometimes I can, but sometimes I can't get there. And then I saw through that, it's like, hang on a minute, I'm literally living this belief out. Sometimes I sit down and to meditate or during the day, and it's just so easy, and other times it's just complete opposite. So you'll see that belief shifting. Well, I'm getting there more and more often, and then the thoughts will be, maybe it's just this thought I'm experiencing, maybe I've never been cut off, so it's just to question that belief in this conviction will grow inside that I've never actually really been cut off. I've just been experiencing the idea that I can be as a separate being. I have to find my way back or something like that.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
It's good you're breaking through that. It's we're always given immediately what we need to we either get what we want, or we'll be shown the obstacle that's in the way right now, the belief, one or the other. And it's very literally lived out, isn't it? That kind of belief in the moment, right there when we can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Sharon?
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how you doing? Are you feeling better?
I'm getting better, I would say.
Good.
Let me just put my, yeah. I don't have COVID, so that's a good thing.
Good.
Right? But it's just a virus. Or anyway, so we had a graduate class, and what I've been doing is saying I'm seeing from silence. I'm seeing from silence. Right? And my mind gets silent. It's beautiful. And you would think at that moment that I wouldn't get upset anymore, but that's not what my experience is. You know, we had a deep conversation about death on Saturday, and I became more aware of my fear of death in that class. In fact, I haven't been able to turn it on again because, and I don't have an answer for that. I would say the only answer I could come up with is that, you know, it's just become so obvious that I'm afraid of death. And, you know, and boy, if anyone gave us a beautiful, beautiful group, a class that you did on Saturday, it was you. It was magnificent. And I left there I was inspired. So I go back and said, I'm seeing from silence. And I kind of just do that as part of, you know, the way I walk around in the world. And I know that you know, before I met you, I did not embody awareness. I wanted to. I knew that when I was in awareness, I was quieted down because my son was missing and I could get quiet from the awareness. But I kept praying that I would find awareness and embody it. And I've been with you for, I guess, since last January. I don't even know. But since I've met you, I embody it. So that's progress. It's great progress. But
I'd like to say that this fear is too. I'd like to say that this is you being the silence. Silence, it doesn't want to push anything away. Silence wants to hear. By its very nature, it's open and it's listening, isn't it? And this fear is just like the previous question. If I want to be that silence, then what I'm going to be shown next is the thing that I still need to look at, because to be the silence is to want to listen equally to everything, you know, to not run away from anything. To be the awareness, the same thing, is to want to look or see everything, isn't it? So this fear is coming because you are being the silence. It's not a failure at all. It takes a level of courage to really look at some fear. And we all, if there is one thing that is present in everybody on the pathway, it's fear of death or fear of something. And it takes some time sometimes before we can really look at this. And of course, that's so because we've been really conditioned to believe that it's a negative thing, you know, that it's a bad thing. So the fact that this is coming up now for you, you know, I really want to encourage you to see that it's coming because you're being the silence, because you're embodying awareness. Awareness wants to embrace everything, doesn't it? It doesn't say, I want to embrace the bliss but not the fear, you know, like the ego would do that. So can you see that this is happening so that you can transcend
I can
it?
see it.
Yeah.
I can see it, and I have an opportunity. I've never been, you know, as a child, I could never, you know, raise my hand and not fear that I would be wrong, because I usually was. I just remember so many things about this story that I have about myself. So when Doreen was talking about Ramana Maharshi today getting beat up, and I don't care, I'm going to cry.
It's okay.
I remember when I was a little girl, and this happened through my whole life, because my mom, she just wasn't well. You know, she had polio and she was paralyzed in one leg, and I know she was the Numenon, and yet she was extremely abusive. And when she would throw me, when I would get abused, I didn't react like Ramana Maharshi. I just allowed it because I became disassociated. I wasn't Ramana Maharshi. I was.
You can't compare yourself. None of us can compare ourselves. You can't even compare yourself to what you did yesterday, because you're a different being, different expression of the one being today than you were yesterday. Certainly different than Ramana Maharshi, you know, or for any of those great awakened beings. And what you're displaying right now to me is the awakened state, completely, authentically being with this feeling right now that you're feeling. That is what awakening is for me, at least, you know, from my perspective. To go, okay, this feels awful, but it's here, so I'm going to see if I can feel it. There's an
because
authenticity.
I don't want to do a spiritual bypass. I don't want to do what I did as a child and disassociate. I want to
But
be able to.
you have to recognize in that you are actually succeeding in this moment. You're not recognizing that you're succeeding in this moment. Feeling this, it feels awful, but you're actually succeeding and not bypassing. Here you are feeling it right now,
Yeah.
with us all here. You're actually feeling it, and that is a success. You have to recognize that you're actually getting what you've asked for here. You're being what you want to be here. It's very important, this, really, for all of us to recognize.
Thank
It's
you.
so much easier to run away from a feeling like this, isn't it? So much easier. But right now, your body, it's probably releasing some of it physically as well. Maybe that's why you felt,
Is
you know, it's coming out emotionally. It's probably coming out mentally as thoughts as well. And how beautiful that you can let your body be with this, you know. It's wonderful. It
Thank
doesn't
you.
feel wonderful, but as long as you reckon, I just want you to recognize that you are actually being the silence. You're actually embodying awareness right now in this moment. That has to be recognized.
Yeah, and it's okay because, I want to know that, of course, I know this is on my projection. I'm the author of the story, and I understand I interpreted it, but I don't want to just, like Michael has helped me with, not saying I'm the noumenon, but feeling what I feel. And so I am feeling, because,
Yeah.
we talk a lot, and
This
I am feeling what I'm feeling. I'm feeling that.
this is it right now. This is being the self right now. This is what it looks like in this moment for you, doesn't it?
Right.
Maybe an hour from now, it will look like laughter and joy and peace and a deep stillness now that you've transcended some of this. But right now, this is what it looks like, isn't it?
It does. It looks like a lot of just feeling, I guess, a release. But and I know that the ego is helping me release it by showing me, what I did was when I went through my life. And I don't get as much support from my family because they're not in this process, so and I have to keep that quiet. But I've experienced and the betrayal of
I'm
that.
gonna have to bring it to a close very soon. Sorry, we're just almost out of
All right, well,
time.
I'm just going to say that I just feel like a lot of feelings are coming up, and what I'm going to need to do in the sanghas is share them and be okay. And then we have another class on Sunday, and just keep
Just
journaling.
celebrate your successes, though. This is a success. You have to recognize. Yeah,
Okay.
this is you succeeding at being the self right now. Yeah,
Thank you so
wonderful,
much.
wonderful. Take care. Lovely. Thank you all for your intelligent questions and for being a part of them. Thank you for your brave sharing. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry I ran over, Don.